we got a listing coming up just in Burlington, your neck of the woods. I think I stole it from one of your clients. I think you were going to get the listing, but I got it.
You're listening to Rambling Realtors with Andrew Roach and Ross Bridges. Tune in each week for in-depth conversations on all the latest real estate trends and the thriving West End GTA markets. Go beyond the real estate world as Andrew and Ross share personal and professional experiences to help you find your way home.
Good to see you, my friend. Welcome to our Thanksgiving edition here of our podcast, Rambling Realtors. How you keeping?
I'm keeping well. We had a good show last time with our guest Bonnie. She was a dream. Great information. Thanks for making that introduction. I took a lot away from that, and I know that there's so much more. I know that you had already suggested on the show that we bring her back soon, and I'm in complete agreement. So it's I'm doing well. I got some plans for the weekend. I think you probably do too. Everybody's got plans for Thanksgiving. So looking forward to it.
Awesome. No, this time of year, I'm reminded it's a time to think of like what we have, not what we don't have. And before we started the show, you were telling me a little, like, could you recap a little bit about your son and his successes on the kart series? I think that's pretty cool. And I think, and then we can talk about all that other rambling stuff we're going to talk about.
Well, this isn't rambling. I don't know what it is. I know I was sharing with you that, for those of you that know me, one of my son's races go-karts he's very competitive on a very competitive scale. So we kind of started just at a small local club. Then from there, we moved on to a bigger club, and then we started competing on a provincial stage, and our next one is international. We're heading down to Vegas on November. Well, we're actually flying out on October 31st, but heading down for the week of 1st of November, and it's a big race in Las Vegas. So really kind of trying to up the bar there. And I think that whenever someone, is showing, progress and potential, that you need to continually give them new and additional challenges. And he faces those challenges like perfectly. My son's name is Matthew. So Matthew, he's very, very coachable, which is, I think, the number one, one of the number one reasons for his success. So he's heading down there. He's done really well. He won, when he first got into karting, he won the rookie of the year. Then the next year he won his cadet championship. Last year he was first in started Briggs. This year he's starting in Mini Rock. And what I said, he's doing really well. He won 2 of the 8 races for the Ron Fellows series, the Ron Fellows karting championship. He almost won a third one, made one crucial mistake, but came second in another one. So he's done really, really, really well. And so we're just, up in the ante a little bit, pushing the envelope as far as competition goes, and getting him down in front of some of the best drivers in North America. And so, from the ones on the one hand, he does really well, and he comes first, second. When he heads down there, I'm hoping for top 20, so, I'm realistic with my expectations, but I think that, he needs that experience in order to be able to progress. Right. So, looking forward to it. We got a couple races, one in November, one in December, and that'll be super fun. He's competing in Mini Rock, which is a 2-stroke engine, and he just turned 11. He's got a later birthday. He just turned 11, so this is 10/11-year-old kid going 97 kilometers an hour is the fastest he's gone so far, and we'll see how big these tracks down in the States are, where he might be able to push it even a little bit further. We'll see.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So maybe the next Jacques Villeneuve or Paul Tracy we might have on our hands. Hopefully he can take it to some Americans and other international racers out there.
Yeah, nothing against Paul Tracy, but I'm leaning towards Villeneuve a little bit more so he can get onto the Formula One stage.
Very good.
But yeah, you know what? He's got a ton of raw potential, and as long as he can keep his headspace in the right place, and I mean, like, you know, to be able to stay focused and to stay coachable and always wanting to learn. Heaven forbid he gets any of my stubbornness and shuts down and says, you know, you're not going to tell me what to do. I already know. But if he can stay coachable, yeah, he's got a ton of potential. I mean, I might be a little biased, but other people have. I'm taking that information and sharing that information based on what others have told me. Right, I'm still new to this world, so yeah, we're all really excited and really proud of him.
And sorry, what's your son's first name?
Matthew.
Matthew. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Well, I look forward to hearing updates on the regular for how he's kind of going along as the races kind of continue.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of things kind of we talked about before in terms of like technology, using it for good, not for evil, right? And with everything that we kind of talked about with Bonnie last week, there's something that I kind of wanted to share. Kind of with this being the Thanksgiving edition of the Rambling Realtors. I mean, the reason we're doing this podcast is to give back to our clients, our community, and staying on topic with health. Like you said, we had the amazing Bonnie Flemington on last week. I was recently watching a documentary by Dr. Sanjay Gupta, One Nation Under Stress, talking about America. But I mean, we can all relate that the constant reminder that, you know, we all have this constant stress in our lives, and just helping deal with that, you know, so that we can all be in our most peak state. I personally, I've battled some issues with it over the years, and I just wanted to be kind of remind ourselves when I was watching this, you know, being surrounding yourself with community, with support, with care, so that you're not only you know, people that are going to be supporting you through the good times and the bad times. You know, obviously, you know, if anyone out there is ever looking for any additional support, whether it's looking for tradespeople, looking for support on things that they need for their home, please don't hesitate to reach out to Andrew's time or mine. We're only an email, call, or text away. I also there's a coach of mine, Dan Go. He's a fitness coach. I would arguably call him the most interesting ninja on the face of the earth. And I'd love to get him on as a guest speaker on our show. Very, very talented man. You can check out his website at highperformancefounder.com. Dan has been a real inspiration for me over the last few years. And he recently recommended a book to me that I want to share with everybody. I'm going to show this to you, Andrew. This would be great for your son, for yourself,
yeah.
For everybody. Heart, Breathe, Mind by Leah Lagos. It's basically helping conquer stress, building resistance so that we can all perform at our best peak state. And why I'm kind of going to this is sometimes whether you're having high blood pressure or you're having too much stress, right? The constant stress is the killer. And I want to talk more about this. You know, this is something that we can kind of share, but there's going to be a lot of people out there that hopefully we can help. And whether it's through meditation and things that I'm going to talk about a little bit more on the show. But I think with everything that we're going on with giving back, bringing Bonnie on, living in our best mental state is something that I think is going to allow us all to perform. And we look at Matthew in the future, this is going to be something that's going to take his game to the next level as well too.
Yeah, 100%. You know, obviously I'm hoping for the best for him, but you know what, there's the odds are stacked so heavily against him, right? I mean, he wants to go to F1. Of the, you know, approaching 8 billion people in the world, there's only 20 drivers, right? You have a far better chance of making the NHL, you know, where every team has, I don't know, like 40 people on their roster kind of thing. You get your farm team, you get called up from time to time, right? And there's what, 30 something teams, there's only 20 drivers in the entire world. So, that being said, is in the very high likelihood that he doesn't get as far as he wants to go, there's still lessons to be learned, and there's still experiences to be gained, and ways of applying everything that he learned to life, to business, to relationships, all that stuff, right? Because like you said, stress is everywhere. And it's I've listened to some podcasts on stress and all that kind of stuff. I shared kind of my backstory a little bit on our last episode about how I was dealing with anxiety and all that kind of stuff. So I dug into that to that topic, fairly deeply, and stress is here, for a reason, and there's good stress and there's bad stress, right? And it's, I don't know if it says, kind of like, black and white is good cholesterol, bad cholesterol, so to speak, but it's, stress is here for a reason, and it does help us grow. And of course, just like anything, in moderation, right? So stress is here and it helps us kind of deal with stuff. It helps us cope with things. It helps us identify good situations, bad situations, et cetera. There's a bunch of arguments to be made that, stress is good for us. And it helps us grow. It helps us get outside of our comfort zone, and dealing and being able to cope and deal with stress, et cetera. Right. So, yeah, I mean, kind of going, here I am rambling off here, but I agree, right? I mean, stress can be coming from multiple different directions, and like I talked about, kind of like my caffeine addiction. Maybe it's not stress that's natural stress. Let's just call it, maybe it's not natural stress. Maybe it's artificial stress that you're just kind of like pumping into yourself unnecessarily, and you're not aware of it, right? But totally. At the end of the day, we want to be happy and healthy, and not under too much stress, to make us, just to, at the end of our lives, look back and say, well, that was a really enjoyable experience, rather than, every day was a struggle, right?
Yeah, totally. Like, you do the most growing when you're in the least comfortable situation, like putting yourself out there. But then, like, what I'm learning through this book is also a chance for really, there's trackers, and we can use technology like tracking our hearts per minute, basically heart rate variability, and then biofeedback to understand more about our health and mental well-being. You've probably all heard that me say, like, health is wealth and wealth is health. But one of the expressions that I say to my clients over the years is, when you have to make tough decisions, is listen to your head, your heart, and your gut, understanding more now than ever the relationship between all three, especially like, what you're eating, but your overall health is directly related to your mental well-being. Something that I've worked on over the last couple of years, and it's something like just anything, it's got to be regular practice, is meditation. And recently, like even just through heart, breath, mind, is deep belly breathing techniques to help restore the body in a short period of time. So it's just, and if anybody out there is looking to be led in practice for meditation, my dear friend Kelly Carpenter, she can assist you. Doing another little plug for her. If you check out the website, theothersideofaverage.com, it's a great way for us. We have all these leaders in our community. Dan Go is he's from the Newmarket area. He was spending Christmas with his new baby, or sorry, the winter with his new baby and his wife in Costa Rica, and running his business, like living the dream, right? The 4-hour work week, like running his life and running a successful business while inspiring everyone all over the world. And somebody that I definitely would love to connect you with too, Andrew, and your son, obviously, Matthew as well too, because as we want to get into that peak state, so that I want to be my best self. I've battled some health issues, as I've talked about before, and anxiety, stress, dizziness. These things can all affect us and hit us in waves. I kind of got knocked down yesterday by one. And if we're not vulnerable, and if we can't share this and have a platform, like this is a gift that you and I have given to each other, and it's bigger than us, right? If we can allow ourselves to share our voice and a word that's going to help, even if it just helps one person out there. I know that sounds a little bit trite in the sense of just helping one, but maybe it helps a whole tribe, a whole community, and we can grow stronger, better, faster, evolve, right? Evolution. You think about stress and how it's all evolved. I think a big part of it is our evolution and how we deal with it. So we're thriving. I did a sermon at my church several years ago, and this was recently after I was diagnosed with my leukemia. And the title of it was From Stress to Busy to Thriving, right? Coming from a state where, okay, well, busy's healthier than stress, right? But how do we come to that peak performance where we're thriving? We're there to be at our best. And it takes time. And when we're run down and we're running all over the place and we're not eating well and we're not exercising, we're not going to be at our peak performance. So having that balance is one of the messages I wanted to share for our Thanksgiving edition, to give a little something back as we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And while you're talking, all great stuff. And I'm thinking, for those of the listeners that are following us and they're, I don't know, maybe they're expecting, nonstop real estate. And it seems to be we seem to be talking more about health than we are talking about real estate. I think that, the real estate market is one thing, but we're all realtors and we're all, whether we're buying or we're selling, at the end of the day, we're human beings. We have, Ross and I are, full-time professional real estate agents. Each of you listeners, you're in a full-time professional career. And the one commonality that we can have around all industries is performance in each of our fields, right? And so for Ross and I, we can only be our best for each of our clients when we are our best for ourselves and for our families. And if we're sick or miserable or just unhappy, whatever, that will reflect on our business and our clients. And so that's why there seems to be a big kind of like focus and a focus for us, for Ross and I, and for a lot of professional realtors or a lot of professionals, is that they want to keep their head in the right place. They want to keep their bodies in the right place, so that they can continue to perform in their career, whether they're, from an athletic perspective or from a professional perspective, where they're offering a service. We've touched on this from time to time that, we're problem solvers. We offer services, but the services are ultimately there to solve a problem, to make things easier, to put an advantage onto someone, whatever the case may be. How do you stand out? How do you differentiate? How do you make something easier? How do you make the whole process a lot more smooth, right? All that stuff. And that those ideas come when we're operating at our best, right? When we're happy at home, when we're our bodies are healthy, when our minds are nice and clear and crisp, and the creative juices are flowing, right? There's some people that you hear the burnout, right? I mean, that's huge in our industry and in any type of sales or sales industry, where it's there's this feast or famine type of mentality, right? And people just try to go. And earlier in my career, you see on social media or like these big gurus and all that kind of stuff, and they stay up till 4 a.m. and then they go to sleep and then they wake up at 6 and they're back at it again. Like, that's not healthy, right? And okay, that might work and they might be really driven, but that does not last long. It doesn't. And they might think it does, and it might last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, but they burn out. right? I mean, heck, even Elon Musk, right? This dude like gets everything done, and like him or hate him, you can't argue with the fact that the guy isn't productive, right? How many companies has he started and are operating and are still growing and are successful on whatever measurement you want to measure success on, and the dude still gets minimum 6 hours sleep a night, and whether that's a lot or a little. I was listening to a very short clip of a Joe Rogan podcast, and Joe was blown away, surprised that he still got minimum 6 hours sleep, right? Because Elon had said I've tried less, but my productivity goes down substantially, right? So, anyways, I digress. The whole, I wanted to touch on that because I was reflecting back, and a lot of our shows ultimately touch on health, right? But I just wanted to maybe share why we kind of, there seems to be a big emphasis on that when it's supposed to be rambling realtors, and here we are talking about health all the time. We obviously talk about real estate as well, but for us, we want to share the issues and the problems that we have had personally that have overcome. So like Ross said, maybe we can help one listener.
And I promise at some point we will touch on real estate for those of you that are listening. But the reality is real estate, there is a lot of human element involved. There's a lot of understanding and empathy and patience that goes on. And where I'm thinking right now is for the next generation. They're dealing with so much social stress, media, that we never had to deal with as kids, right? And one thing I know more now than ever, I used to I'd never liked routine. I always kind of like to just roll with what my day was going to look like. And I know more now, like from Circadian Rhythm. For any of you out there, Google that, because that in a long term will help you. It's the consistency. It's having that routine that is going to help you have the best quality of life. And you might not buy into it now, but just remember that you heard it here first on the Rambling Realtors, that having that consistency, that routine, that circadian rhythm.
Well, touch on that. For those that don't know what the circadian rhythm is, get into that a little bit deeper.
So it's basically going to sleep at the same time every day. Thank you for bringing that up. It's the consistency of eating every day, having a bit of a routine so that your body and your mind has an expectation for what the day is going to be looking like, right? So if you're going to bed one night at 9:30 and the next night at 12, and you're eating one day at 9 a.m. and the next day you're not having a meal till 1 or 2, your body's confused. It's in a condition of stress. So your body will eventually follow more of a routine where just like the tide and the moon and the waves, like going to bed as at sunset. Some people will go to bed as 8:30, 9:30. Others a little bit like 10:30, 11:30. But that consistency, and then allowing your body to have the most time to recoup. Somebody like Elon Musk, I'm sure he is on one heck of a routine. He probably gets a lot more done than most countries, right? So to have that consistency and to allow yourself to perform at that peak state, it all starts with a routine.
Yeah, absolutely. I am also not one for routine in the slightest, to be honest with you. I don't know. I think I kind of like naturally kind of like buck that trend. Like I cannot for some reason kind of, the only routine I have, and I shared with you this when we first started this podcast, is one day when I was like 41 years old. No, I'm 41 now. 40 years old. Sorry, my wife's 42. Is that one day I woke up and I just started making my bed, and I've made my bed every day since that. It's the only routine. That and brushing my teeth in the morning and before bed. Otherwise, yeah, I struggle with routine as well. I get bored with it, but you're right. I mean, like that, I do find myself, I get into a quasi routine, right? So I'll do something for a month or two or whatever, and then I will ultimately kind of like fall out of the routine a little bit. But like going to bed at the same time. The circadian rhythm is what you were getting at originally. And it helps your body naturally go through that cycle rather than you feeling like you have to force it. Like, how many times have you and I gone to bed? You're tired kind of, but you're like, you lie there, eyes wide open or eyes closed, and they feel like they just want to open. You're like, okay, I'm not tired. Right.
That was last night.
when I do get into that rhythm, that routine, like if it's like a, 9 or go to bed at 10, right? And then I'm waking up at like, I don't know, whether it's 6 or 7, whatever the case may be. If I get into that routine, I naturally fall asleep right away at 10, and I just naturally wake up, and it's not the alarm going off and you're like dragging yourself out of bed. And you're like, I'm 5 minutes longer, 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes. Right. And then you start your day off and you're like, well, okay, I need a pot of coffee to get up and go. And, it just, you get your whole day off on the wrong foot. Right. So that all helps. And the same thing with like exercise, eating the right way. If you're always if you do have that routine, your body will naturally, again, I talked about, again, I think it was offline here a little bit. I was talking about, my Apple Watch and how it sends me notifications. One of the notifications is drink water, because I'm not drinking enough water, right? And you're supposed to drink a certain amount. But when your body gets used to the same thing all the time, if you're always giving it the proper nutrients and you're always giving it the right amount of water, it will function properly. When you starve it of certain things, it gets into its own stresses and it reacts in a specific way. And sometimes that's, as fatigue. And actually, we should have brought this up with Bonnie, because she might correct me on some of this, or at least, agree with me or validate what I'm saying. But, maybe that's gaining weight, or maybe that's being sluggish, or maybe that's not being able to keep weight on. Like, your body will react in certain ways depending on what you give it, right? Yeah. Crap in, crap out. So again, like you were saying, if you get that routine of going to bed on the right times, getting the proper amount of sleep, drinking the right amount of water, eating the right types of foods and at the right times. I haven't even gotten into, and I've just kind of like played with it just a little bit, but the oh shoot, I'm drawing a blank on what the word is when you starve yourself. Fasting.
Fasting, yeah.
Right, intermittent fasting and stuff like that. Right, when you put your body into these stresses, it will react in a certain way, and it ultimately long term is really good for you.
Yeah, your metabolic rate and everything that you just described there. And I mean, and you talked about it too. And in this book, they talk a lot about fight or flight, right? The fight or flight response. When we're in that constant state of stress, then our bodies, some people will hold weight, other people will lose weight. So it's just being in that peak performance so that you are more empathetic, you are more compassionate, you're more understanding. You can basically take in a lot more information and be your best self so that you are performing at that highest rate and giving people, your clients, your family, your friends, that best version of you, right?
Absolutely, 100%. So did we want to talk about real estate at all? Do you want to keep talking about health and wellness?
Oh, no, I think that's kind of where we should go right now. Our profession. That's why we started the show, was to talk a little bit about real estate, or a lot about real estate and a little bit else about these other things, but we got to change it up, right?
Well, yes, I think the name of the show should just all of a sudden set the precedent that we're probably going to do a lot of off-topic talking.
Absolutely. So now we've entered the fall market. Okay. And I think we've seen the dust settle a little bit with the elections. Markets, I feel that not much really had changed. They're still healthy, definitely seeing less activity than we did a couple months ago. But I think this is an ideal time for first-time buyers, people moving up in the market, people wanting to make something happen. Really only about another 6 to 8 weeks of good market before scarcity at the end of the year. And I actually, Andrew, I'm curious to see, I know this is early and our crystal balls might be a little bit broken, but what do you think? This is October 7th right now. What do you think? Okay, we might have some government announcements. We could have a little wag the dog with some media, but where do you see our markets going in early 2022? Putting you on the spot here. But
Yeah,
you're
I know. Listen, you're not putting me on the spot because I can tell you with certainty that I've had this exact same conversation about probably 10 times in the last 2 weeks.
awesome.
Everybody wants to know, right? And you're right. I mean, like my crystal ball is in the shop right now. I hopefully we'll get it back later this week or next week. But you know, I think at the end of the day, and this is basically what I've been sharing. Again, we can't predict the future, but we can look at what are some of the things that are driving the real estate market. And it's been the same thing for years. Whenever you get, there will be certain things that will make things react, but ultimately long term it'll go the same way. The real estate market is not too unlike, it doesn't behave too dissimilar to the stock market, just on a much slower pace, right? If you're going up all the time, you're going to have some down days and some down months and some down years along the way. But at the end of the day, what is driving the prices up? It's still the same factors. We still have, again, depending on the stats you read, 9.4, 9.5 million millennials. The youngest of them are in their early 20s. The oldest of them are their late 30s. If that isn't home buying age, I don't know what is, right? First time buyers to second time buyers, right? Like early young families. That is like key. I need to live in, and I need a home of my own.
Dwelling, yes.
Right? So 9.4 million people out there in Canada all saying, I need a home. Mm-hmm. We still have 9 million baby boomers that have not en masse sold their houses, downsized into some place way up north, or gone into a home. So they still own all the inventory. Not all of it, but a lot of it, right? So you have, right. Yeah. Right. So right there, you have one very significant factor, a tug of war of demand, right? Then you add in immigrants, right? And we already know that Canada needs immigration to continue to grow. And in previous years, the government's kind of benchmark was, 250 to 300,000 or so. Again, we kind of fluctuated, but call it 300,000. That doesn't include students when they come here on a student visa. That doesn't count work visas, right? Travelers, whatever. So, then they were the argument is that maybe that 300,000 is probably closer to 500,000. So you get 500,000 people every year saying, I need a house as well. I need a place to live. And they could be rentals, but then you're adding in investors into the mix. Okay. Now with COVID and them closing the borders for a while, Trudeau said we're going to up the immigration to 500,000 instead of 300,000 to make up for it. That will ultimately probably become closer to 700,000 after when you take into consideration student visas, work visas, temporary people coming here and there, et cetera, right? So now you've added in, almost another million people looking for houses. We have, we've got red tape everywhere, right? As much development as we see, the development still isn't nearly enough to satiate the demand. And I had this conversation with a hopefully soon to be client of mine one day. We've talked about real estate many times, and he made an argument, and I totally agree. It's like if one day someone came along and just opened up, 1,000 acres and just said, build it, 1,000 acres, right? That still wouldn't be ready to live in for, another 2 to 3 years. So there's a time lag of, hey, there's all this demand. Okay, let's react to that demand. You're still 2-3 years away from that demand easing, right? Then we get into urban intensification, where the provincial government wants building in certain spots, right? And they want people crammed in, and they want certain type of buildings. So now we're not just talking about putting up, one single family house or a row of townhouses that which arguably could be done in maybe as little as 6 months or something like that. They're talking about, let's build a condo tower, Well, the condo tower could take 3 years to build, right? And that's not including, and I apologize for not clarifying, when you're talking about like opening, here's some 1,000 acres of raw land, that needs to be developed, needs to be serviced, it needs to be like severed and surveyed and all that kind of stuff. And great, like that, there's a whole process that happens well before a shovel goes in the ground, right? And then let's talk about, the other just most obvious thing is interest rates, right? Interest rates are stupid low right now. In fact, in some cases, in my case, and I hope in your case, and I hope in many other cases, the money that you are borrowing for your mortgage right now is actually free. And I don't mean free like, wow, it's so cheap. I mean, it's actually free. It's actually, the bank is paying you to have your mortgage. And what I mean by that is that I have a mortgage on my principal residence right now. It's a variable rate mortgage. I pay 1.5% on my mortgage. Inflation right now is about 2.5%, maybe 3% in some areas. So if my dollar is actually going to be worth 3% less, and I'm borrowing for only 1.5%, I'm actually making money on the money that I'm borrowing. You know what I mean? It's kind of a bit of a mind shift there, but and so I was listening to listening to or reading or something like that, something about a pension fund manager that was talking about where the economy is going, et cetera. And this pension fund manager felt that the Bank of Canada would let inflation run hotter than normal, in order to be able to ensure that the Canadian economy gets back up on both feet steadily, right? Before they start saying, oh, inflation is running, let's react and start playing with interest rates and start raising interest rates. And then all of a sudden everyone's like, okay, we're not going to borrow anymore. We're not going to spend anymore because it's too expensive. Now the economy, it trips, right? Stumbles, falls maybe, and we don't get out of the recession that we've kind of arguably been into for a while, right? We don't get into this stagnated growth. So, the Bank of Canada definitely wants to make sure that the economy is going to get back up and running full steam, out of, and be able to get out of, borrowing money and be able to get into, getting the economy running. And they have to be able to make sure they can do that without, if they raise interest rates too quickly or too high, that could very much jeopardize that growth, right? So anyways, the argument that this pension fund manager was making was we might see inflation run 3, 4, 5%, which would be far higher than normal, before interest rates kicked in to kind of like stifle that inflation. But it's kind of one of those things, what's worse, right? Short-term inflation or long-term stagnation of growth, right? Anyway, that's my crystal ball. That's last time I was reading it anyways.
Very eloquently said. I think that the reality is there's a huge migration coming to our country. And if you look at how quickly the GTA corridor is filling in from Niagara to Toronto,
right?
And you talk about infrastructures and you talk about city councils and red tape, and these things are all going to take time. Call to action right now. There's a great opportunity now over the next few months for these millennials, for first-time buyers, for people moving up in the market to make something happen. I anticipate that we're going to have a crazy start to 2022. I think if the pandemic seems to continue to subside and, hopefully we allow more people into our country, you talk about a very conservative number of 300,000 to 500,000 entering our country. And we could both argue with international students that, I've had international students that have purchased properties, right? So they've been in here long enough, they purchased properties. So, blind bids, consumer confidence. Consumer confidence right now is not super high because everybody's waiting to see what's going on. Like, what is the government going to make any additional announcements that could allow for maybe the markets to go down? But in that time, will the markets go up another 5, 6, 7% before they go down 2%?
Right.
Probably.
And just like 2017, right? If the markets do go down,
yes,
that doesn't mean like that's now the new trajectory, It just means that they corrected for a little bit, right? The demand got a little bit overheated, and everyone just kind of took a pause and waited. And then it was, what was it, even a year? I don't even think it was a full year. I think it was 8 months before it was back up and running again, right? And then we just kind of kept on going, and here we are, right? So
I think we could both be on the same page to say that our advice is don't wait, get into the market. Interest rates are crazy low right now, but like you said perfectly, like they're basically giving away money. And there's a great opportunity where you're not going to see as much competition between now and January. But I think that we're going to see continual competition for supply and demand.
When you say there's not going to be that much competition, you're talking about from a buyer's perspective?
From a buyer's perspective, I think there's going to still be competition.
Right.
It's just not going to be as much. There's going to be opportunity now between now and hopefully the middle of January.
Where you're talking like 6 offers that you're competing against instead of 12.
Yeah. You're looking, exactly, perfectly said. Like if you're looking to buy a home right now, whether it's Toronto, Burlington, Hamilton, you're going to be looking at maybe half the activity, right? You're not going to be going up against 16 to 18 offers, maybe at 7 or 8. And here's another piece of advice for people out there. Don't care about how many offers you're going up against. Just put your best foot forward, allow us as realtors to advise you and to win. And at the end of the day, if you go through it a couple times, you're going to be well positioned to win. Do not get caught up on how many offers you're up against.
Yeah. And, I pause and I hesitate because I had 2 thoughts just cram into my head at once there. But like the other thing is don't be, like you said, don't be afraid of being in competition. You can go in and you can say, okay, what will this realistically sell for? Right. And look for comps. And yeah, you might have to pay more for it than the last house that just sold down the street that was identical
3 months ago.
Well, I was going to even say last week or a couple of days ago. But yeah, for sure. 3 months ago, but the other thing too is plan for like, what is the house? What's the purpose of the house for you? Okay. Is it, heck, is it an investment and it's going to be a 15-year hold? Does it really matter in that case that you spent an additional $10,000 than you were planning on? Similarly, is it going to be a family home and you're going to raise your kids in it? And it's everything that you ever wanted in the home, or at least for the phase of life that you're in right now. And you're gonna be in it for a minimum of 5 years, but likely 7 to 8 years. Same idea. Does it really matter? Right? At the end of the day, when you sell it for, and it's hard to wrap your head around this, but like in 7 years, when you sell it for $900,000 more than you bought it for, are you going to be like, oh man, I only made $870,000. I didn't make 900,000, right? No, you're not going to. And then even still, let's just say the market goes completely flat and it doesn't go anywhere and it just stays there. You just lived in a house for free, essentially, for 7 years, and you sold, you bought it for 900, you sold it for 900. Okay. Yes, you had to pay your mortgage down. You'll get that money back essentially, or half of it, because you paid your mortgage down. Better than paying rent. Right. And you're not getting any of that back. Right. I look at it, what's the point of the house? Now, if you are, it's a temporary thing and you're only going to be living in it for 2 years. Okay. Maybe in that situation, you might be a little bit more sensitive to how much you're going to pay for the house. But, if it's a home and it's a long-term home, what is it worth to you? Right. And that's when you were saying, put your best foot forward, go in with your best foot forward, right? What is it worth to you? Because at the end of the day, if you get the house, or when you get the house, I should say, with a very, 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 very rare exception, you were the highest bidder, right? You paid more for that house than anybody else was willing to pay. That's going to be the case 99.99999 infinitely percent of the time, right? 2 times this year have we sold a house to a lower bidder because our clients liked the client kind of more, their story. They wanted a young family in there. The other people were investors, and they really cared about the neighborhood, right? And then we were on the same thing. We're on the same side, right? Where we were the buyers, and we had put together a nice presentation package for the sellers. We presented ourselves. Lisa made a really good rapport with the listing agent. The other agent was very cold and bossy. And this is the way it's going to be done. And we just presented ourselves a lot better, and the other offer was higher, and they chose us, right? So there are some exceptions to that rule. However, most of the time you're going to be the highest offer, right? So just eat it, own that. You're going to pay more than anybody else is going to pay. Now, what is it worth to you? And never look back thinking, I wonder what the other offers were, right? You're just going to kill yourself. You got the house, nobody else got it. You're super ecstatic. Can't wait to live the dream, move in, start the new chapter of your life.
Yeah, I love what you just said there. I think if we're waiting for blind bids, so you know exactly how much you won over, you're going to be waiting a very, very long time. And
right.
Prices could go up several $100,000 between now and then if you're stuck on that point. So just imagine you're now settled in your new home. We have all the information here. So if you want to contact Andrew Roach or myself, Ross Bridges, another thing too, the biggest thing to do is contact us and let us get you pre-approved. Okay. There's options right now with different amortizations. So we can get you a lower monthly cost on the home. So you know exactly what you can afford. And instead of paying someone else's mortgage, you can start building equity for your future. And the reality is your home's probably going to double in value in 6, 7, 8 years. So let's set you up for your life. And if you're worried about, you're still renting and you're hoeing and humming about, renting safe. Well, maybe you want to think about how you can set yourself up for that long-term success for that future.
Absolutely. Yeah. We could talk endlessly about this kind of stuff, right? So when you have questions, everyone's situation is different, right? So, person A is going to reach out and they're going to have one situation, and we might give you some advice, and person B is going to reach out and they're going to have a different situation, and we'll give you completely different advice because everyone's situation is different. So yeah, absolutely. You got questions, reach out, give us a call, shoot us an email. I'm more than happy to talk about, what the market is doing at that time, what area that you want to move into, right? I had a call we got a listing coming up just in Burlington, your neck of the woods. I think I stole it from one of your clients. I think you were going to get the listing, but I got it. Just kidding. Long-term clients. We've sold a number of these people's houses over the years. But we got an exclusive sign on the front, right? So just sign goes up, boom, immediately phone calls, right? 2 phone calls. Nice long conversation with one couple, and basically they're looking for some family friends of theirs, young family friends of theirs, and the opener is hey, this house looks like it needs a little bit of work, and my family friends here, they're first time buyers, they got a really tight budget, but they want something rural, etc. Their budget's $600,000. This thing will sell for over $1 million, right? So I had to get into it. Listen, it's not what the house is; it's what the value of the land is, right? It's an acre. Moments from Waterdown, moments from Burlington, moments from Dundas and Ancaster, right? That's where the value is. Right. And then it's got almost a 2,700 square foot house on it it's not ideal for everyone. I'm not saying it is, but it's going to be it's going to be valuable for a lot of people. Right. I ultimately had to have a conversation with them about what is the market doing right now? If this is your budget, this is what you want, we're going to have to go and look over here. Right. And those people, like you said, Ross, those people are going to sit around and wait for the market to turn into their favor. you're probably going to be dead before it does.
Or,
Right.
or it goes up 7% and then it goes down 1 or 2%, right?
Right.
And I've been joking recently, a lot of people like moving from condos, they want to get into freehold, townhouse or semi-detached or detached. I'm like, you're going to be paying a lot more for that dirt. You can put a shovel in that ground. You can build on it, especially if it's a detached. If you own the highest and best use to that land, if it's a detached home, you're going to pay a premium for that, right? I don't care if you're coming from a beautiful penthouse condo in Toronto,
Which
and
they have tons of.
there's tons of, and you want to build your dream home in Stony Creek, right? You want to build your dream home on the lake, right? Well, you're going to pay a pretty premium for that dirt. So don't wait. If that's your dream, then and just imagine where you can be, but don't wait. There's the call to action is now. We talked about getting pre-approved, getting out with Andrew and his team or me and my team, and let's make things happen.
Yeah, you saying that reminds me of I guess I don't know if you were kind of specifically talking about a client you were talking to, or just kind of like hypothetically speaking, but yeah, there's a lot of people that we've spoken to over the years that would love to build their dream home, but they can't afford it, right? The one thing that I would suggest you do, my one piece of advice that I would do, and it's kind of piggybacking on what you just said there, Ross, but is go through the process. Don't just think, oh, that would be nice, I'll never be able to afford it, the end, move on. Go through the process. You would be surprised at how much you learn. Like, you going through the process does not mean that you have to buy the house or the land or the lot or whatever it is, and actually make it do, and then only find out later, oh, you can't do it, and now you've lost the money. That's not what it means. But educate yourself, right? Reach out to us and say, hey, listen, this is what I would like to do. Do you have a mortgage contact that I can talk to? Hey, what's on, is it raw land? Okay, what are the programs in place that I could buy a raw land right now and just sit on it? Maybe there's a forest on it. Maybe you get a tax credit, and your taxes are like almost nothing because it's raw land and it's got a big forest on it, and so you get a tax credit because it's there's a foresting program. Maybe there's a small house on it, in which case you could potentially just rent it, leave it as it is, and rent it out. And now, yes, you have some capital in it, but you're getting some income off it. Maybe there's an opportunity for you to duplex it. So if you can duplex it and get that kind of like get additional income off it, the fact that you're looking to buy something right now doesn't necessarily mean that you have to tear down next week and start building next week. Most people that buy something, that when you see these big houses go up, that looks like an overnight success. It seems like they just bought it last week and all of a sudden there's a mansion on it this week. No. They bought that 5 years ago, right? And they held it. And that would be my recommendation, is to say, go through the process. Okay, what would it realistically look like if I were to purchase this property today and hold it for 3, 4, 5 years? And then at that time, you've got options. Maybe life changes, and maybe you don't want to build there anymore, but now the property is worth more. Now it's an investment property. Now you can sell it. Now you duplex it. There's all kinds of things, right? So when you're driving along, and this is where your mind's wandering, you're listening to the radio, or you're driving, or you're doing your commute, or you're in your shower and you're thinking all your creative juices are going, and you're like, that would be so good if. Reach out, right? Hey, I got a question. We're always happy to help and answer questions where we can, right? I'm looking at this property. Would it be completely outlandish for me to think that I might be able to do X, Y, Z? Right? Well, actually, you can do an X and Y, no problem. Z might be a little more challenging. Let me put you in touch with so-and-so and let's find out, right? And then you can just, and maybe it's not that one, but now you have some information and you take it to the next time there's a property. So, okay, last time I looked into the other property, I found out this. This one's a little bit different. Maybe I could do that instead, right? So anyways, I ramble on.
No, I think this would be a good additional show that we can do on steps, processes, and phases. Like just to give a little synopsis before we finish off the show here. But maybe you're a first-time buyer and you're thinking of buying a place with your brother or your sister. Well, let's
that was my advice on a previous show. I always say that first time buyers are trying to get in the market, buy a duplex or a triplex and live in the smallest unit.
Totally. You're new to the country. Maybe you need to team up with another person who's new to the country, a friend or family member, to get your feet wet, to start building equity, building credit, so that then maybe in a few years you're separating and going your other way. There's great opportunities right now, whether you're in Kitchener or you're in Hamilton, to buy dwellings. You want to move out of your condo that you've been in Mississauga, or you're in Burlington, and you're ready to, you want that house. Well, there's great opportunity. Maybe it's not Burlington, but maybe you're looking into Hamilton or Grimsby, or up into Kitchener, Cambridge area, right? So it's getting started. It's understanding, okay, even though it's listed for $599, it's selling for $727. I need to understand that. What can I afford? And putting yourself out there and starting, right? And phase one might just be securing the home. You might not get that beautiful turnkey home. You might have to do that over time.
100%. Moral of the story here, don't stop dreaming, right? Ask questions, find out, right? We're always here to help. So you got questions, give us a shout.
You have to start somewhere.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing some of your afternoon with me, Ross.
Thank you, Andrew.
We'll do this again very soon. Get back on the wagon. Keep in mind, again, early November, I'm out of the country, man.
That's cool. That's cool. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your beautiful family.
Thank you. You too.
And in the days ahead.